stream. We're missing something.
I think we're good.
The streaming on the other one? Do you know?
The streaming is me,
Oh, then never mind.
and the caller, I believe, is Brandon. He calls in on the phone, and then he does video.
Oh, he does? Oh.
That way we can hear him, because if his internet cuts out, you still have
Okay.
his phone.
It's 4.
Right?
Good afternoon. This is the study session for Monday, June 1st, 2020 for the Abilene City Commission. And due to the COVID-19, meetings will be held virtually and streamed live on the City of Abilene's YouTube. And the city study sessions are for purpose of providing the commission the opportunity to study items in more detail. And open forum. I don't think we have had any contact with any residents, not at this time. First item, resolution number 060-820-1, City Manager Foltz.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have Aaron Martin with us today, as this is something that we've been using with the City of Abilene now for, I think, 2 years. And as we were looking at these aerial sprayer operators, we were trying to make a change so that it would be easier for them to get approval to use our airport for aerial applications. So I'll let Aaron go ahead and explain away what he and I discussed and move forward.
Sure, thank you, Jane. This is Aaron Martin, City Attorney. And as Jane mentioned, the background on this is there's a group of aerial sprayer entities that use the airport as a staging area for their business operations on a seasonal basis every year. That season typically runs from March 1st through October of each year, and then during the fall and winter, of course, that activity ceases. Historically, each sprayer or applicator that wishes to use the airport as a staging area has been required to enter into an agreement with the city, just outlining the terms and conditions under which they can use that for their business purposes. Historically, they have been charged $750 per year. It's a non-exclusive type of arrangement. We're not allowed to grant exclusive rights with respect to the airport because of the funding involved. The agreement provides for the fee, of course, but it also provides for indemnification of the city in case an accident or injury or property damage arose because of the activities out there. It also requires each entity or sprayer business to maintain insurance and to name the City of Abilene as an additional insured to protect the city's interests. And a couple of years ago, I had helped city staff with developing a template form for this arrangement. And over the last couple of years, we have consistently used that form without any deviations. And I think what we've observed is when these sprayers come and want to do business, they're usually wanting to get started right away, of course. And we talked just internally with staff about whether or not this is the type of arrangement that could be administratively approved. There's really no code provision or any authority that we can find that speaks to the city manager approving these types of arrangements. The only other comparable arrangement the City of Abilene has is there's what are called T-hangers out there at the airport. And the City Commission several years ago delegated to the city manager the authority to sign T-hangar leases out at the airport. We couldn't find anything similar for this seasonal sprayer arrangement. So if it is of interest to you, we prepared this resolution that would delegate the authority to the city manager to go ahead and sign these seasonal sprayer agreements without bringing each of them to the city commission. We are finalizing the template or form of agreement. And the model that we're anticipating is if you were to approve this resolution at an upcoming city commission meeting, we would make sure that form of agreement is attached. It's going to be nearly identical to the ones you've previously considered and approved in the last couple of years. And then the resolution anticipates that we would not deviate from that in any material way without coming back to the city commission. So it would create efficiencies from that front to the extent that that's desirable. And that's kind of a high level overview of what we're trying to accomplish there.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Does anyone have any questions?
Commissioner Schaefer, just a comment, makes sense to me.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Witt. Yeah, I'm in agreement. Seems to make sense. Falls under the category of a more typical operations kind of thing that would fall well within the authority of the city manager. And yeah, my only question was that Exhibit A being attached, but Aaron, you addressed that. That will be in our packet if it's on the next meeting. So thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Aaron? Okay, thank you. Next item, resolution number 060820. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
Just a question about the procedure. Commissioner Schaefer, can this be a consent item or does it have to be an agenda item?
This is Aaron Martin, City Attorney. This could be a consent item because it doesn't involve an ordinance.
Okay. With that said, then it should be just put on the consent agenda, if that's all right with everyone. If you have any questions, further questions?
I think this Commissioner Marshall, I think it'll just simplify things to have it on the consent agenda because it's just SOP.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's just easier that we have it on the consent agenda and that way we still have the information. So, okay. Mr. Martin, do you have any further information for us?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item is resolution number 060820-2, and this is Marcus.
Yeah, and this is just kind of a reminder that the audit is going to be coming back up at our next meeting. I had communication with April multiple times last week. We kind of went back and forth on some of the things that we were wanting to adjust and correct in the audit, and she messaged me today, and they're going to have a copy of the audit sent back over to me. Should be either this afternoon or tomorrow morning to be able to review, and I'll be able to get that into your packet then for our meeting next week. I would also, since we're going to be going back to in-person meetings, we should be able to have April in the room with us next week at the library.
This is Commissioner Marshall. Marcus, I just want to tell you it was a great audit. It's good as usual. I appreciate your hard work.
Appreciate it.
Does anyone have any further questions or remarks for Marcus? Well, thank you, Marcus. Great job. Next item, tentative CO21 CIP plan, resolution number 060820-3. This is approving the capital improvement plan. City Manager Foltz. Or is this for Lon Schrader?
Thank you, Mayor. So moving forward, this is all part of our budgeting process. And getting these capital improvement items in front of the commission is very important as Marcus and I and the staff work through our operational side as well. I appreciate Mayor Osterman suggesting to make this a one-page document so you can see it all in front of you. And so working with staff, the first items that we have, thank you, Marcus, for sharing that, is the capital improvement projects. And again, these are all proposed items on this list. Working with Lon at Public Works, you can see that we have storm drainage projects, we have water line projects, we have our sewer reline and rehab project, street preservation, the Rogers Street improvements, and our Buckeye Avenue KDOT C-clip. Those are all coming from the Public Works side of the city. And then I jumped over the city building remodel, and that piece comes from a capital improvement plan that has had money sitting in it now for 10 years, Marcus, would you say? Probably.
I believe it's been since around 2010,
Okay.
when they were putting money in for the City Hall project at the time.
Correct. So looking at these items, knowing that this is, as we plan for the future, these projects are slated for 2021. Now, that being said, with this entire page, including our equipment reserve purchases and our water equipment purchases, these are all proposed with the idea that the money has to be there. Now, as Marcus and I have worked through this, we know that the capital improvement items in the first column, the money is been set aside for these projects. The storm drain fund, the water fund, the 2019 sewer bond issue will take care of the sewer reline and rehab. The capital improvement facility fund has that money sitting there, not saying that all of it will go towards this remodel, but knowing that the money is there. Our street and special street fund is where our street preservation and rehab money comes from. And it's been the practice of this city to allow about $300,000 for street rehabilitation and preservation. Now, you know, this year, with what we have now run into with COVID-19, we backed that off. And I think our number was in the $200,000 range. Or maybe 196. Then our Rogers Street improvements, that is again special streets and special streets fund. And then our Buckeye Avenue KDOT C-clip project is our portion that if this project is funded, and we should know in the next few days, in 2020, if this project for 2021 is approved. That is our portion. Now, if that project is not approved, that money will not be spent. Are there any questions about our capital improvement projects piece, the first column?
Yes, Jane, this is Commissioner Marshall. Would you speak to balances after we do these projects, assuming we have the revenue to fund them, our ending balances for 2021?
I'm going to let Marcus do that. He and I talked this morning, and he can give you that information. Marcus, you're up.
And kind of looking across the board, so these street projects, you see, you know, a good amount of money budgeted for streets. The special street fund at the end of the first quarter, sitting at a balance almost right at $400,000. And the sales tax street fund at the end of the first quarter was around $600,000, almost right on. So between the two, you're looking at about around $1 million balance right now. The special street brings in $175,000 for the gas tax. These are estimated numbers, but around that each year. And then federal fund exchange, we usually get around $70,000 there. And we also, for the sales tax street, bring in usually around $325,000 to $330,000 per year. So we would be looking at between the two street funds around $550,000 to $600,000 on a normal year. Obviously, this year with COVID, some of those numbers could come in less than normal, but we would anticipate that we'll have those funds moving forward and coming back in each year. And we have the starting balance currently of around $1 million that we're at right now. So the water and sewer funds also have some additional funding in those right now, which I know we've talked multiple times because of the 2019 bond issue that has increased that balance. But even a lot of these projects can be funded through that revenue source as well. So the water fund at the end of the first quarter was sitting at $1,058,000, and the sewer fund is sitting at about $467,000, but the sewer equipment reserve still has a balance of about $432,000. So if you combine the sewer and the sewer equipment reserve, you're looking around $900,000. So healthy balances in all of those funds as well. And obviously, we're still looking at, this is a plan. We want to make sure that, you know, these are future needs for these items, and we want to make sure that we have the plan in front of you. And then as we work through the budget, we make sure that these are 100% possibility. And even moving forward into 2021, before any of this money is spent, we would still, you know, make sure that the funding is still in place and these numbers are large enough that these items are going to be coming back to the commission before, you know, they're officially approved anyway. But this kind of gives you a little bit of a heads up a year ahead of time before you see that. Storm drain's also on there. The storm drain budget or balance was about $586,000 at the end of the first quarter. Now our general fund reserve, that's a tough one because at the end of the first quarter we were sitting at over $2.5 million, but you know we have our revenues to come in early on that, and we will be touching a lot more on all of these funds as we get the budget in front of you. So you'll kind of get to see the whole way it plays out with the beginning balance, revenue and expenditures, and what our ending balance will be planned for at the end of that year as well.
Hey,
Commissioner Marshall, again, thank you very much, Marcus. I think it's very important that we let citizens know that this is a plan. We're hoping this will work and that we're not blowing every penny we have. They need to know that, you know, we will still have healthy balances. Thank you so much.
Marcus, I had mentioned to City Manager Foltz about, since we're on the National Register, the Kansas Historical Society has two separate grants for municipalities. One is the Heritage Trust Grant, which is up to $90,000 with only, I think, 20% of our information. And the other one is strictly for municipalities. Who would apply for that for us if we were thinking to going that way? I know a lot of other, Ellsworth, Lincoln, Topeka, a lot of them use this for their buildings, so is that a possibility for us?
I need to probably just do a little extra research into those grants. I think that's something that administratively, you know, we would definitely find some people here, and I'll even let James speak to that as well. But I think any of that additional funding, you know, we would definitely want to look into and try to take advantage of anything that's available to us for sure.
Okay, if you want, I will. If all you have to do is to go to Kansas Historical Society of the state of Kansas and go into preservation, and they list them. it's under that, so.
Thank you.
Mayor, that's an excellent idea. This is Commissioner Marshall again, and we have, people in our community that sit on our boards that would certainly help us with a grant. They're just sitting there waiting for us to ask.
That'd be great, yes, I agree. Okay. City Manager Foltz, did you want to continue with the other information?
Well, are there any other questions for the first section, the 2021 capital improvement projects? And thank you, Marcus. You know, as we do this plan, you know, you're always looking at making sure that we have money set aside and that monies are still coming in, and I think that's important as we move forward with this CIP plan.
This is Commissioner Witt. I have a quick question on the city building remodel. I see you with, I think when I first got on the commission, we did a city building tour and with Mark. And at that time, we didn't have exactly a clear direction on the approach, but I see from the extra detail on this of having a little bit more clear direction of the idea of putting the police department there on the second story. It'll just be interesting to see how those costs come in, because looking at this as a phase one to this work, I see it written, and my guess is a big chunk of that will be an elevator, just for accessibility purposes to that second floor, if all the police is going to be up there. So just you may not have an answer to this, but what I was wondering is, we'll get with the city engineer and see if 350 would be enough to get it to a point of usability. I just, seeing that number, I'm not quite sure if we start next year, if it'd be to a point of usability within a year or not, but just something I was curious about as I was reading through the information.
Thank you, Commissioner Witt. This is Jane Foltz, City Manager, and yes, we do have an elevator that is actually operational. That is a plus, and one of the reasons that we were looking at this. Also, there was a study done, and I'm not sure of the timeline, with moving the police department or doing some updates on that side of the building, but the second floor was never brought into the plan. And having talked with the city engineer, Mark Batcham, he felt like this is a doable opportunity, and this will just set a plan in motion, and then we'll see how the numbers roll out and see if it can be done, because the police department is in a really tight space. So that is our thought process with this city building remodel. And talking about the Historical Society and the opportunities that are available there, you know, when we did the updates to the outside of the buildings this past year, we did apply for tax credits. We did receive those. I do have those now in my hands, and we will be trying to sell those tax credits to companies because the city can't use those, just as we did in the renovation of the swimming pool a number of years ago. So, you know, I'm familiar with the grant processes through the Historical Society, and I'll work with Marcus on that. We were very successful when we did the grandstand renovation and the swimming pool renovation. So we will work to get those dollars to help with this project moving forward.
This is Commissioner Marshall again. This is for Jane. Like you said, you talked to Mark. I'm sure this $350,000 will take us a long way in getting the city building in a better condition. Even if that leaves the project undone, at least we're going to be more user friendly.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Appreciate that. Are there any other questions about capital improvement projects, the first section? If not, we'll move on to the proposed equipment reserve purchases. And the way that Marcus and I compiled this list is we have had an asset management plan in place now for 3 to 4 years, where our department heads look at the use, the years, the miles that they're putting on equipment, the hours, and from this, we began setting money aside to fund an equipment reserve fund. And I believe we're in the $300,000 range, Marcus, that we transfer into that fund every year.
Yes, and this would be the third year, and the first year there was a transfer of about $390,000, and then in 2020 it was budgeted for $355,000. And we'll be reviewing that number with the budget process coming up for the 2021 budget.
And so from this list, you'll see that the first 3 items are lease payments that we're making out of that fund. And I also asked that what number of payment are we on, so that you guys, you as a city commission, can see where we are. It looks like in 2021, we're gonna make our last payment on our motor grader. And I'm sure that Lon probably has another piece of equipment that is gonna need to be funded from this project. And then our street sweeper, we're on the 3rd of 7 payments, so it's a fairly new piece of equipment, and our dump truck lease payment is 4 of 5. So in 2022, we'll be paying off that dump truck lease. And then we'll be rolling another piece of equipment into those spots. So the other items here are listed are the truck-mounted asphalt heating unit, which I believe we use to do street work with that asphalt that's going on right now. You'll see that we've got a flatbed truck with some asphalt in the back, and they're filling potholes. Then we have a utility tractor for the Public Works Department. In the street department, we've got the police department, portable radios that were supposed to be purchased this year, which have been moved to 2021. We think we can get 1 more year of use out of those. A police vehicle in 2021. We did not purchase vehicles in 2020. That has been moved to 2021. Then the fire department will be adding a pickup truck, and then the chief's vehicle and the assistant chief's vehicle will then be down to 1. So those 2 vehicles will go away, and we'll have a pickup truck. And the reason we went from a SUV to a pickup truck is that we now have a trailer that we take on the scene of a big fire, and in that trailer are our air packs. And the pickup truck will also have extra hose that may be needed before or after the fire is taken care of. So not easy to throw wet hose in the back of an SUV. And then our bunker gear and hose, as I talked with Chief Sims, we replace 5 sets of bunker gear a year. So it's in a rotational phase, and we have 20 volunteers and 8 regular firefighters. So every year we try to rotate that bunker gear at 5 sets a year, and then hose as well. And then the extrication tools. Now, the fire department has applied for grants for these extrication tools, but we're not sure if we are going to be awarded that grant, and it's a part of a county-wide project for extrication tools. But if we do not get that grant, the total cost for these tools is $43,000, which we will buy as the city of Abilene, but the county has agreed to pay for half of those because our rescue truck does go out when there is a specialized incident or accident in the county, and we do have those extrication tools available. So, and then the last thing, I think our auditor alluded to, we may need to start looking at a new software package for financial and utility management here in the administrative offices. And we have to start setting money aside for that, because as we begin to look, as Marcus and the staff begin to look for a new financial and utilities management software, we're getting by right now. We think we can do better, and there's never been any money set aside for financial and utility management software. I think it needs to be part of our planning going forward, and it may take a few years before we have monies in order to buy a new software update for the administration. It may be 2022, 2023, but we've got to set the money aside. So with that, if you have questions, Marcus and I are glad to share those. And Marcus, you might give them the number, the fund balance for the equipment reserve fund at this time.
Yeah, and the equipment reserve began 2020 around $311,000. We have the 2020 transfer, which would be $355,000, which was budgeted to be transferred in. And so that would put out the total about $666,000. After looking at our 2020 expenses, right now we're budgeting to end the year somewhere around $275,000 to $300,000 again at the end of the year for the equipment reserve fund. So we should still have a solid balance, and then we will review the 2021 numbers with that and see what our transfer needs to be to make sure that we have funding in place in case any other items that are not on this list. We might have an emergency. That's kind of part of the reason of keeping that equipment reserve with a safe balance, because if anything were to go out at any point, we want to be able to get that back in operation as quick as possible. And with the financial and utility software, so even though we're putting $50,000 on this list, we, that's something that may not come out right out of the 2021, like Jane has mentioned. And now that we've been able to add that into our asset inventory, we can put in a number, and we'll try to get some closer, more accurate numbers, but it could be anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 possibly for new software. And we will take that over the life of the software, and we'll start to put funding into place so that in the future we will always have some money set back as well for the software, which we will just count as another piece of equipment basically, so that we are prepared in the future to financially take care of that when these types of issues arise.
This is Commissioner Marshall. Jane, I was so glad to hear you say that that was money being set aside, because in my notes I put that's not enough money. And we don't want to do this quickly. We want to make sure we get a fully integrated package that does everything we need and not go cheap again like we did the last time. We need to do our research, buy one at a good company that has the support out there and does it all.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that, this is City Manager Jane Foltz, I don't think the public realizes how integrated this software is. It integrates our budget, our payroll, our billing. It's very integrated and very complex. And so, yes, that is not enough. It's just going to start the fund so that we have a healthy fund when we begin this research, because researching software to that magnitude, it doesn't happen in a year or a few months. It happens in a year to 18 months to really look at what is out there and find out what is working for other cities. It's not rocket science, because other cities do the same thing with their financial and utility management software. We just need to make sure that we have enough money set aside to do the right thing that does what we as the city of Abilene need to do.
That's Commissioner Marshall again. That's so important. I really champion this project. We need new software, but we need to buy appropriate for Abilene, Kansas, not Kansas City, not Clyde, Abilene, Kansas. So we need the research.
Right.
And it has to be fully integrated.
Any other questions about the equipment reserve purchases or any balance questions that Mark has shared? Okay, if not, we'll go to the 2021 proposed water equipment purchases. And as you all know, water is very important for a city. We continue with our 2019 water bond issue, and Lon is on the line. If he has anything to share, we will talk with him in just a moment. But I want to go over the SCADA upgrade, which is part of the water bond issue. Our well control electrical update, which, as you know, well controlled, and we have, I believe, we're looking at well number 23. So we've had a number of wells over the life of the city. We have to upgrade our well remote telemetry, and that's how they talk to each other and to the water plants. Let's see, and then part of that will also come out of the water fund. So that is a large ticket item. So we wanted you to see the importance of that. And then rebuilding of our 2 backwash pumps. And then, as I stated, our new well, number 23, we have our transmission main, which will be $25,000 for 2021. And we do have some dollars in the 2020 budget this year, as we proceed in getting that new well 23 ready to go. And you will be seeing that here in the next few months as we begin that process of getting well 23 going with the city of Abilene. And having a new well, it doesn't happen quickly. It takes time, and this is a couple of year process. Now, Ron has done a lot of work in 2019 and this year, and then 2021, and it'll probably go online, Ron, I'll ask you, I think it's around 2022, is that correct? That's our hope?
Yeah, I think that, this is Public Works Director Schrader. Optimistically, by the end of 22 would be, again, optimistic, and you're right, we've actually started the research and started zeroing in on an area about 2 summers ago now, almost exactly 2 years ago. It's probably 2 more years.
And Marcus, do you want to speak to the cost estimate balances in those funds and where we are there, please?
Really on the water and sewer funds, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier when I went over all of those funds. But we do have about $1 million currently in the water fund, and the sewer fund, between the sewer fund and the sewer equipment reserve, has about $900,000 right now. And we have got the rates back in line to where we are starting to see some improvement there. And so all of these types of projects, they're really going to have to be on kind of a rating scale of most important. And we are really watching, these very closely before we're able to spend those dollars. Lon's very aware of that. He's been working hard to keep expenses down over the last couple of years, which has really helped us as well. So we're just, these items, once again, they are needed, and we're just going to do everything we can in the next couple of years to make sure that we have funding in place to get those taken care of.
So are there any questions from the commission on the proposed water equipment purchases? If not, so this, again, is a capital improvement plan for 2021. And as we build our 2021 budget, Marcus and I will sit down, plug these numbers in along with our operational budget, and we will be ready to present you our state budget. I believe we've got that slated, Marcus, for the 15th of June, so we'll start that process that you all can see where we are as a city. But again, I'm feeling very good about the work that these department heads have put in over the last 4 or 5 months. Behind the scenes, we've been working very hard. Marcus's work getting all of the numbers and the balances so that we're not going to present to you things that we as a city cannot afford. And we're working very hard to make sure that, again, as we move forward, if we have any changes to the dollars that are needed to run this city, you will be very much aware and have an opinion. And then once we bring you that final budget, you will have time to look it over and tell us what things you don't like about it. But it is our goal to bring you a budget that is conservative, yet meets the needs that we see as department heads, myself as a city manager, that need to be done. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Next item is resolution number 060820-4, and I think, is that Travis has the information, or is that Aaron?
I have Aaron.
Aaron, okay. Yes, Aaron?
This is Aaron Martin, City Attorney. This item is a resolution to be considered following the public hearing to be held on June 8th in relation to whether or not structure at 206 Southwest 2nd Street is in fact dangerous and unsafe. We have done 1 or 2 of these within the last 6 months now, and to refresh your recollection and anyone who's watching, we're following the statutory process, which commences with the code enforcement official filing a statement with the governing body, stating his or her findings that a structure is dangerous and unsafe. That initial report and findings were presented to the City Commission, I believe it was early April of this year. And so the first step then was to simply set a public hearing, and that public hearing was set for June 8th. And after that hearing date is set, staff follows the statutory guidelines or requirements of publishing notice in the newspaper and sending certified mailings to the owners and anyone who may claim an interest in the property, such as a lien holder. That process has been followed, and so now we're to the point where we're actually going to have the public hearing. And on Monday, that will occur with the enforcement official presenting evidence as to why the structure is, in his view, dangerous and unsafe. And then anyone from the public or the owners or any other interested parties can present their own evidence or take exception with what has been presented to city staff. Following that public hearing, the resolution, if you deem it appropriate, will be considered and adopted. And it will, again, if adopted, set the deadlines for commencing the work and completing the work. And then under the statutory process, if the owner does not follow those timelines, the city has the ability to proceed with demolition of the structure. And then the statutory process, the city can follow to recoup those costs if the city ends up demolishing it. So again, that's an overview of the process we're following. We recommend waiting until the public hearing to discuss your personal thoughts on this structure so that the owner and the interested parties can have an opportunity to respond. But this is the resolution that we intend to include in your packet for the upcoming meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Martin, this is Mary Osterman. Is there a way that we have these properties, at least let us know how long the owner has owned the property and how did they acquire it? Because I think that can play into information we don't have.
Sure, I believe we can obtain that information before Monday. I don't have it handy right now, but we can obtain that on this one in advance of the hearing, and then going forward, if that's desired, make sure we have that available for upcoming structures that we're going to be dealing with.
Thank you. That would be very helpful.
Sure.
This is Commissioner Witt. Question for Jane and Aaron. When we set this property's hearing date, we also set a hearing date for 413 3rd Street for June 8th as well. I'm just curious, where are we at with that property?
So I can answer that. So all the steps for this were not followed, and so we will be bringing that back to you once we get those steps laid out. It's still on our list.
And this is Aaron Martin, city attorney. To that end, Jen and I have just had a chance, I think, on Friday to talk about that one and figure out a game plan for that one. But the new game plan, I believe, will involve setting a new public hearing day, essentially just starting that over. And so we can talk offline on the timing, but I think we can be prepared to do that at an upcoming meeting to just restart that process and set a new hearing day via a resolution.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yes.
Does anyone else have any further questions for Mr. Martin? Okay. Thank you. Next item is to consider Vine Street sidewalk project bids. And City Manager Foltz, is that?
Thank you. I'll let Public Works Director Schrader talk about that.
Okay.
I'll give you just a little preview. As you recall, we did receive a $35,000 grant from the Blue Cross Blue Shield Pathways Grant as part of the active transportation piece of that grant through the Quality of Life Coalition. And so we were tasked with getting a plan together. And our goal was to try to connect the compound of the high school, middle school, and Eisenhower Elementary, and try to pull that together so that there was a safe path to the community center, the parks, and eventually to McKinley School. So I'll let Lon talk about the nuts and bolts of that sidewalk.
This is Public Works Director Schrader. Going back historically, when we finished in 2017, I believe, the completion of the Eisenhower Elementary School, then City Manager David Dillner and staff were trying to work on potentially doing a sidewalk project soon after that. And that was our goal at that time as well, was to have some connection there with the school compound or the school area with the community center. It got set aside at that time, and then when this Blue Cross Blue Shield grant was available, it looked like a good time to revisit that. So I put together scopes of work and specifications for this. Started on it last winter, actually, as far as getting, and it got slowed down a little bit with the COVID-19, with our 4-week shutdown. I probably didn't get quite as much done early as I wanted. But our goal is to have this done by the end of July, and I invited, as it says in your agenda, we invited about 6 or 7 contractors to bid on this. We got one good bid, or one bid. However, that bid is about $9,000 under the estimate that I had prepared. So you could say we only got one bid, but I think we got the right bid. So pretty pleased with that. There's a lot of work to be done there, but basically the sidewalk would take off from the intersection of Northwest 11th and Vine. We will put in a crosswalk there, go over to the west side of Vine Street, and then proceed south all the way down to Northwest 7th Street, and connect with the sidewalk there that leads towards the west. So, like Jane said, eventually our goal, and you already know about Rogers Street, one of the goals of Rogers Street is to have a sidewalk connecting Northwest 4th with Northwest 8th Street. And what that will leave then will be a piece of sidewalk to construct eventually in front of Great Plains Manufacturing. And so long term, those are all, they're all things that we've thought about, and this just looks like a good time. T&M Concrete Construction is, obviously, we have a history with them. They did 11th Street. They were the concrete general contractors. They are the subcontractors right now on Northwest 8th Street. I was not surprised that they submitted a good bid, because they will likely already be mobilized in Abilene this summer doing work. So, any other questions you have, I'll do my best to answer.
This price tag, this 67,000 to 35,000 comes off that, making you sure about 32. Is that correct?
That is correct, and we're using a couple different. We've talked a lot about federal fund exchange dollars. Federal fund exchange dollars do cover, that is one specific section of dollars for federal fund exchange is sidewalk and ADA improvements, is covered in that as well. So this is a good way to utilize some of those dollars, and which we did. For some reason, we got more federal fund exchange dollars this past year than we expected, and then the rest we would, let's see, I remember the funding source here. There is you'll notice on your agenda form, and I don't want to confuse you, but there's about $12,000 there that was additional. That's a street crossing at St. Michael's. We'll do some improvements to the valley gutter, and they are carved out of there for a reason, because those are not actual sidewalk improvements, those are street improvements. So you'll see that in your agenda, in your summary of that agenda form as well.
Do I have any further questions for Mr. Schrader? Thank you, Lon, for all your hard work. Looks good.
Well,
Next item. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, was there another item?
Yes, there is one more item, and that is the CMB license for Historic Abilene Inc. It'll be on your consent agenda, and they're applying for a CMB license. So that will be an extra item on there. And lastly, we have an update for the city manager's reports, and that would be Jane Foltz.
Thank you, Mayor Osterman. This is Jane Foltz, just giving you an update. So the city will be notifying water and sewer customers that the executive order from the governor ended on May 26, 2020. The Abilene sewer water customers will be responsible to pay their past due bills. We are working on setting up a payment plan for those who need time to become current. Customers will be responsible for their current water bill plus 1/4 of their past due balance. And customers will have 4 months to pay the full past due balance. So due to this COVID-19, we are going to give our customers 4 months to get current on their past due bills. We feel this is fair. I talked with the clerks out front. We really looked at this hard. The city we need those dollars to pay our bills, but we know that many of our normal customers are having some hardships. So we felt that this would be a good way. It'll take us 4 months to take care of this. So by the end of the year, our hope is that our customers are current. We're not penalizing them into 2021. And so that's our plan at this point. Street work continues on Elm Street from 3rd to 7th, Rogers from 1st to 4th, and then when they're done with those two major projects, they will be doing that warranty work around the post office. And so far, we haven't seen a lot of issues with this. They get in and they get out, and they're doing a good job. Our next city commission meeting will be in person on June 8th. That's Monday at the Abilene Public Library. We will be using social distancing. Masks may be worn. They're not mandatory. It's what you all are comfortable with. We will be streaming live again from the city commission chambers. The public may attend, but seating will be limited due to social distancing. So we will be going over and setting up the room, trying to see how many people we can hold in that room. But we will continue to live stream as always. Also, we were notified that our 4th and 5th cases of COVID-19 have been identified in Dickinson County. Just for your information, and the county reopening plan version 5/29/20, which was last Friday, is now posted on our website. And so that is there for everyone's information. Also, the city received a donation this morning from the family of Dean Hawker in his memory to be used for improvements in the Eisenhower Rose Garden. And lastly, the Abilene, Kansas has been named a finalist in the Best Historic Small Town by USA Today. This is the 2nd year in a row for this. And I will let Julie Roller, who is in the room with the mayor, tell you how to vote, because this is about getting the most votes.
Absolutely.
When you're on.
Thank you, Jane. This is Julie Roller Weeks, Abilene Convention and Visitors Bureau Director. For the 2nd year in a row, we have been named one of the best historic small towns by USA Today. You can vote daily by visiting our website, abilenekansas.org/vote now, and then you'll find a direct link to the USA Today website, the 10 Best website. There are 20 finalists. We are the only one from Kansas. I would also point out this is the 2nd year in a row, and that is really rare to receive that kind of accolades 2 years in a row. So it's something I'm really proud of, and a great way for us to have additional publicity on a limited budget. So thank you very much, and vote early, vote often.
And I'll just add that I voted today already.
Okay,
That's all I have, Mayor.
thank you. I just wanted to know, do people have to sign in at the meeting on June 8th, from what I was reading? Is that a requirement?
Yes, you are exactly right, Mayor.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. And this ends the study session for Monday, June 1st, 2020 for the city of Abilene, Kansas. Thank you.